Hello everyone, 5 free knitting patterns, but designed by me. So what we're going to do, we're going to sort them out the way from the bulky to the fingering, and I'm also interested when did I design them. Obviously I haven't went back to them for my old ones. I picked just 5 for you. I'm trying to figure out the socks because I knitted more free knitting pattern socks, but hopefully that will be a future video. So I hope you're going to enjoy, and let me know which one is your favorite, and then let's start. So number 1, just knit hat. So on this screen you need bulky yarn. I have the videos over here, and this is a tutorial. So it will show you how to make it if you're a beginner knitter, and I designed it for a beginner knitter. There's a folded brim over that because I thought to go like the basic cast on you can do, and for me the basic and the easiest is the back loop cast on method. You just pull the yarn, you don't have to do any fancy things with your fingers. So I thought that would be very encouraging, and then just do knit. So even the decreases are kind of based on knit, and you just pull things over instead of catching 2 stitches together, I think, as I recall it right. There is a written pattern on Ravelry, so obviously I will put a link down below to that too. And it's bulky. I think I used 9mm needles. Give me a sec, I'll tell you what Ravelry says. It says 5 stitches per 5 centimeters, so 10 stitches. We have 7mm and 9mm, so you were size 13, and I've knitted them with 2 knitting needles, but then afterwards I was just sticking to US size 13 9mm in case you wouldn't want to spend more money on tools. This is what I recommend. The yarn I used was drop Andes, so very thick one, quite affordable also yarn, so I was thinking that everyone would be able to enjoy it. It's very quick knit because of the, you know, bulky of it. And I'm just curious, when did I design it? In January 2018. Okay, so let's move on to the second one, which was like after this one, let's learn a new stitch. So let's knit purl stitches, and I call it Let's Purl Hat. So this one. It's quite focused the way the construction on the top is as the first one, just knit hat. So the only different thing is over here that we are doing a ribbing, which is 1 by 1 rib, I presume. The same, we have gauge 10 stitches, so we use the same yarn, we use the same knitting needles, and I remember that it took me a while to actually even record a tutorial, because there is a tutorial, so I'll link down below too. Well, not really, it took me a year, January 2019, so it's not bad, I would say. Yeah, what else I can say? The same story, US size 13, knitting needles 9mm, also 7mm, I think for the ribbing I went with a smaller one. However, like I said, you know, if you don't want to, you can literally go 9mm and it will work magic too. I think better to have it slightly looser than too tight. That's why I'm recommending you to go bigger needle than smaller needle. Just saying. And just to be sure, especially when you're first time, would you make a swatch or you just start to knit. My always recommendation for any hat that you knit is to, after a few rounds, just to put it on the longer cable and put on. The story is like that normally when you block, so you wash your first knit that you do, it may stretch a little bit. So if it's already loose, it might be even looser, more loose. So yeah, but you know, you need to make few hats with few different weights to actually understand how many stitches you like to have, how fitted the hat you would like to have. Without going into more details, unless you want to, right down below, I can talk about it. We are going to the pattern number 3, which is Lights and Twig hat. This is for worsted weight yarn, so slightly thinner but still quite thick, because we're getting over here 15 stitches in that 10 centimeters sample. So if I have a sweater over here, if I will just stretch a measuring tape and count how many stitches I have, thicker yarn you have, less stitches you're going to have, and it's very important to get gauge. Smaller more stitches you have in that gap, then if you slightly off may not be as a big difference, just to let you know. But then if you make a mistake with the bulky, it's very easy to frog it, and so rip it off and start again, I think. So yeah, with Let's Pour a Hat, there's also a video tutorial and there's also written patterns. I'm putting the links down below. It's those two hats, I would say the first one was more fitted, and I think that's just one size only for both of them because they're for free. But I think if you want to make it smaller or bigger, you would need to just have a number of stitches that you can divide it by 5, as I recall it correctly. If I'm wrong, just let me know. But going back to Light and Twig hat, that was designed for my shawl, which is patchwork pattern, so over here, and it's really cool to maybe make a swatch. Although over here the hat is knitted in round, the shawl is knitted flat. However, some elements that you would want to learn, like a bubble that I created, there's also a tutorial how to make a bubble, you can check that out. I also have a tutorial how to add a bubble in case you forgot this one, or how to remove the bubble in case you put it in the place that it shouldn't be there, so this one. So quite more advanced things if you make an error but you don't want to frog because you realize that after knitting the full, for instance, sweater, that you're missing a bubble somewhere or you have it in the wrong place. Right, I do not have a tutorial for that hat. There's only written pattern on the Ravelry, and let me see, when did I designed it? I designed it in October 2019, so not that bad. Do we have more sizes? There's one size only adult. Just something to practice if you want to then make a matching shawl. Just saying. Then the number 4, which is Ice Cube hat, and this is also for worsted, but that worsted was slightly different because I'm getting 20 stitches, so 5 stitches more than the previous hat, and then I've been knitting. I use over here US size 5, which is 3.75 millimeters, and US size 7, 4.5 millimeters. Let me check, because I did not tell you Light and Twig hat what kind of needles I use. So for that hat I use US size 7, 4.5 millimeters, and US size 6, 4 millimeters. So as you can see, this is slightly different use of the knitting needles, and straight away, so as you can see over here, the smaller needles in those two patterns are different, but the bigger size is the same, and technically the word worsted is the same, but the yarn per se may not be in regards to the yardage, or maybe even my knitting could have loosened up or tightened up, because that's also your internal thing when you're actually knitting and you're using different yarn. I actually designed this pattern in September 2017. So as you can see, there's 2 years difference, and maybe that also changed my gauge in regards knitting. But also the blend of the yarn may actually change the gauge per set too. It's not only that it's written worsted, not only that you check that how much yardage you have, but the same yarn with the same yardage being merino only, and then being a merino and nylon could be a completely different story. Could be non-superwash, could be superwash, and they will slightly stretch, the other one will not. And the gauge normally we take after blocking, and blocking means you're washing, you let the hat soak in the water for a few minutes so everything blooms up, and then you take it, you squeeze it, put in towel, squeeze it, put it flat, and then dry it, and then you measure the stitches you have in that small gap. Just saying. I put this one, it's very simple, and surprisingly, because probably there's like 61 projects, so people I think enjoyed this hat a lot, and it's a very good project for beginner knitter too, even though I presume it's also one size only. And the last but not least, as you can see, I'm missing DK weight over here. We have a fingering weight hat. I call it double special hat because that was a double brim. That kind of got me to knitting hats with double brim. I really like it. The gauge over here for this hat, because I use quite small needles, and I as a beginner knitter, I was knitting tighter. I'm getting 32 stitches per 10 centimeters in the ribbing. Also, that's ribbing. We have US size 4, which is 3.5 millimeters. I'm using fingering, so now I would think that if I'm using fingering, depends on the fingering, but most of the cases I would have 24 stitches for the body. So I'm just saying, over here I just took the ribbing. I don't know why, but I did it, and I designed it in October 2017. So as you can see, that was way back, and it was my beginnings. But it's also a really nice hat. Although if you can see on the photos, I was more into fitted hats. So this time I would definitely go slightly bigger. Do we have any more sizes with this one? Oh, I need to check it out. Hopefully I will, and I'll let you know. Or even down below, I'm going to put the links, and in the brackets maybe I'll add also how many sizes we have, and maybe some more information in case you want to make it bigger or smaller. Like I said to you for the first two knitting patterns, that you know, you need to have a number of stitches dividable, I think that's the word, by 5. For sure I know that, but with the others I haven't checked. They're free patterns, so if you find something, let me know. I will try to correct. As you can see, they were 2017, 2019, so way back then. Therefore, I haven't heard anything from anyone. Maybe they're very nice. So I presume everything is okay with those patterns. Thank you so much for checking them out. All the links are down below. There's also links to all my patterns, so check them out. I'm hoping to record the next one for the free sock patterns, knitting pattern. I'm hoping to record the next video for free sock knitting patterns. However, I noticed that I have a few, and I wanted to focus maybe top 10, but I have like 12. And I really like, so I'll have to make decisions, and it's so hard because they're like my babies. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this one. If you have any free knitting patterns that you enjoy knitting, not even mine, but relates to hats, write down below. Maybe people will go through them and find something they like to knit. See you. Bye. And yes, I do have a plan to record some videos about my paid for patterns, so hopefully you will stay tuned. Go check them out now if you're interested, and I hope you find the one that you really like. Bye.